Hello, everyone. This is Mike Gola here, your host for today's conversation with our esteemed guest, Mr. Leonard Raskin of Raskin Global. We're certainly excited about our conversation today. And first and foremost, thank you all for carving out times out of your busy schedule to join us. For those who maybe aren't as aware or familiar with BizEquity, I'm going to start off with a little background about BizEquity, and then we'll dive into our conversation. Specifically about how to plan more effectively in terms of exit strategies with valuation. So first, we'll start off with just a little background on BizEquity, right? Our goal and our mission has been since we started and will continue to be to help democratize business valuation knowledge for the business owner. The reason that is that when you look at the traditional value prop around valuation, it really doesn't have the business owner in mind. And what I mean by that's a few things, and some of you are probably already well aware of this, but the traditional valuation process is really expensive. It's really time consuming, and it's traditionally done offline. So it can be a bit intrusive to the day-to-day business practice. And so because of those factors, 98% of private business owners in the US have no idea what their business is worth. And we feel that that's certainly not right. All business owners deserve to know the value of their most prized and largest asset. And so what we've done is we've created a cloud-based valuation tool that allows you on your very own white label to deliver real-time valuations to your business owner clients and prospects. And then more importantly, once that valuation is delivered, it gives you the opportunity as their trusted advisor to guide them around that valuation figure. And what I mean by that's a few things. It could be really anything under the financial planning spectrum, right? It could be retirement planning, insurance planning, succession planning, and then what we're going to talk about today, which is exit planning, and ultimately guiding business owners to grow the value of their businesses to that ideal exit figure. And so I've put a few figures here just numerically about BizEquity and who we are, but now let's turn the conversation over to Leonard here. But right before I do that, just a little housekeeping here. After the webinar today, everyone on the call will receive a recording of the webinar. And then I'm going to reference a few materials, including a case study that we've published with Leonard. You'll all receive that after the call via email. So now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Leonard Raskin, who is the owner and CEO of Raskin Global out of Maryland. And just a bit about Leonard and his firm. It's been around for about 30 years now. They pride themselves on helping individuals and business owners manage, grow, and ultimately protect their wealth. So welcome, Leonard. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Great to be with you, Mike. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to our group assembled.
Yeah, absolutely. So I figure we'll start the conversation off. If you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about your specific business and how you serve business owners currently?
Sure. So Raskin Global is a fee-based consulting firm. Everyone that we meet with pays us a subscription fee to work with our firm. And to start, we're just like, I guess, everybody else out there. We meet people, introduce to people from CPAs, attorneys, and others. And the world is we offer everybody a free upfront first meeting consult where we'll sit down and tell you about us, find out about you, see if there's a good fit. Assuming that it's something that you want us to engage, we then dig deep in the data and find out all about your hopes and dreams and wishes. Our goal is to help our clients have the financial future that they so richly desire, and in particular business owners. The thing that disturbs me most when I come across a business owner, you kind of said one thing was 98% of them don't know what their business is worth. I think that leads to a second and even bigger problem, which is they plow a ton of their money back into the business because they were always told it's their best investment. They plow all their money back into the business. They don't divest. They don't take out profit. They don't pay themselves enough, and they don't look for capital sources other than their own money. And that was all good for the buggy whip guy till the Ford came toddling down the road, and it was a little too late. So we work with business owners and get them to understand what the benefits of their business are, that exit is always the result of business ownership, and that you will exit in one of a few ways. What we like to say to people is you will either voluntarily or involuntarily leave your business. And if it's voluntary, it would be via a sale or choice to shut it down. If it's involuntary, it's because you were the buggy whip guy and the Ford came toddling down the road, or you went out horizontally instead of vertically on a bad day.
Right.
So we tell them that they need to make sure they're maximizing the value of their business, both as its valuation and as it serves their family and their American dream, their future, what they're all about and what they want this business to do for them. I've not met anybody that just wanted to have their business be worth more and then shut it down. It's be
Right.
worth more to sell it, be worth more to transfer it to children or to prized insiders or whatever it is. And our goal is to help the business owner maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of those dollars right up and through the hopeful voluntary vertical exit. That's what we're hoping
Yep.
for.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. Totally. And maybe just to piggyback off of something, not to take it in too different a direction there, but you had mentioned you had mentioned CPAs and lawyers and other COIs.
Yeah.
How have you used valuation at all to engage with those types of folks, or is there anything active you're doing to engage with them, or have they sort of come naturally through the conversations with business owners?
So it's a combination. I would say one certainly has been that with the business owners that we work with, and then we're providing and talking about valuation, that immediately involves their other advisors, whether it's their accountant,
Right.
attorney, whatever. They step to the plate immediately, and so they're engaged as soon as that part of the process that we do comes up. And what's been beautiful about that is we now have an accountant here, an attorney there, and a CPA over there who says, what does that cost? How much do you charge people for that? And we charge precious little. And our goal is in the engagement with our client, it's just part of the fees we charge and the services we provide in total, which again include everything about the business operations, exit strategy, key person benefits, deferred comp plans, pension plans, design, administration, funding of pensions. We're looking at everything. And so the
Right.
valuation is just one of those big pieces within. But whenever we're working with a business owner and the valuation is put in front of them, immediately the accountant, the attorney get in. And I'll give you an example. I just got an email yesterday from an accountant we do work with, a client who said, hey, I got another guy who's thinking about he might want to sell down the road. I told him he should have the valuation done, and I referred him to you to get this done. He's going to be sending you an email the next day to talk about what he should be doing. So that's just fantastic. There's
Love it.
nothing better in our business, I think, than when the phone rings or an email comes in and it's Joe Blow saying, I can't wait to meet you, and what do I need to do to get started? That's as good as it gets.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And so kind of as we transition our conversation here, when you look at all of the services you provide, how important is valuation as it relates to those services?
Oh, Mike, it's critical. It's critical. I can tell you, I had a gentleman, we're going to get into a case study I know later, but I had a gentleman who was in the throes of a sale of a medical practice. He was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the buyer made him an offer, and he thought it was a great offer. It sounded good to him. It sounded fair to him, and it sounded apparently fair to his accountant and his attorney as well. And they were all ready to write up paper and do drafts and do documents and get it done. And he called me and said, hey, I've gotten your name. I've heard about this thing, and I want to know if I should get a valuation done. Here's what's going on. Well, it wasn't a huge number.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, it was the difference between this guy. He has a number of practices. He was selling one of the divisions, but it was the difference when we did the valuation between the buyer offering him $350,000 for the practice. We did a valuation, got the data from his accountant, got some information from him. We did it on the phone on the fly in about 20 minutes, and valuation as a going concern came in at 550, and as a sale came in at about 450. And he went back to the seller, and I'm telling you, they met at 475. we picked up 125,000, which was a 30% increase, 35% increase in the offer price because he had a document in front of him that was legitimate that showed the valuation that the other guy couldn't say was wrong. Now, he could have backed out of the deal for sure, but he was good with it, and they settled. That was a couple months ago, and they settled last week on 475 on a deal closed, finished. So when we work, I met with a business owner just last week, had a conversation with the guy. So what's your business worth? And he says, I don't know. And I said, well, give me a number. He said, all right, 5 million. I said, well, how do you come up with that? He said, well, some model of revenue, something 5 million. I said, okay, I'm a buyer. I just walked in your office, handed you cash in a briefcase, cash, not a check, cash, $5 million. Do you take it? He goes, no, I'm not selling. I said, then it's not worth that. So I said, how about I walk in with a briefcase, I give you 15 million. He goes, I'm leaving at 3 o'clock to play golf. So I said, okay, so it's worth somewhere between 5 and 15 million, but you have no idea. He said, you're right. So in the process of sitting with him now, he's going to engage it with our services. And one of the first things we're going to do is look at this question: what is the business worth? And the question I referenced earlier: how much of your money should you continue to fund into this business if it's worth 3 million versus if it's worth 13? It's a big difference. I mean, people. So here's in the business world. Here's a crazy analogy, but I'll give you this.
Sure.
You know, people look at their statements, their 401k, their IRA, their investments. They get upset when it goes down 2%. You got $1 million IRA, you look at your account statement, or you go online to a portal, something. We use Living Balance Sheet, which is an offshoot of eMoney's programs, but we all have these programs today where people aggregate their accounts. You got $1 million IRA, you look at your account, it's 980. You go, holy cow, I just lost 20 grand. But you have an asset worth $6 million, you don't even know what it's worth. Is it worth 1 million or 10 million? You don't even know. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You got to, as a business owner, you got to know what this thing's worth. How do you not know what your prized possession is worth? It just seems ridiculous. So
if you look at a real life situation to that same analogy, it's like, imagine if you went up to someone and said, what's your 401k worth? And someone just said, I have no idea. You look at them like you're a crazy person. And it's it's the same exact thing here. So no, that's spot on.
Planning, in planning, I say to people, give me an estimate of your 401k, and they'll say, I'm not really sure. I say, okay, look, are we talking 50,000, 500,000, or 5 million? Oh, it's about 1.5 million, or it's about 800,000. But if you say, tell me your business, and they go, I have no idea. I mean, you got to be within a nice round 6 or 7 figure digit, right? Is it 700? Is it 7 million? I have no idea. Are you kidding me? You have no idea? How do you have no idea? And you own this thing. So yeah. And these days, another analogy, these days people are looking at Zillow. They want to see what their house is worth. So you click that button, it tells you what your house is worth. Wouldn't it be cool to click a button, know what your business is worth? we help people do that. They go, what? Yeah, we help you do that. Click a button, know what your business is worth. People love it. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, totally is. It totally is. And so when you look at, we always talk about it in our industry, quote unquote, differences sell. Like we hear that all time and time again. How is being able to provide valuation in real time to your clients and prospects, how does that help differentiate yourself in your specific market there?
Yeah, so great. Another great question. I will tell you, as I said, it immediately brings the accountant and the attorney into the game. And one of the things you mentioned at the very beginning, valuation is an expensive proposition. So I don't know the number, but what I do know is, for instance, in this medical practice, when we sat on a Zoom meeting, much like this, and with the accountant, the attorney, and the doctor, I threw out questions, they threw out answers, and inside of 20 minutes, we had a real live, full-blown valuation for this guy. The accountant said to me, that's astonishing. He said that would have taken us weeks to kind of compile and do some research and look at some comps and how we value the revenue and the recurring revenue and the non-recurring revenue and the lease impact on the valuation. And he said, we just did that in 20 minutes. I said, yeah, because the data is all embedded in the system. So that's what allows us to do it that easy. And he's called back with another client and said, you know, I want him to go through this. I want to go through this with you with another client that we're looking to do a deal with. So it definitely stands us apart as somebody that's out there. And so I have one client whose accountant loves doing his valuation, and he loves charging him $15,000 a year to update it.
Whew.
And we haven't been able to get the client to recognize that we can do it, like, you know, not for free. We don't do anything for free, but for damn near for damn near free versus 15,000 a year. And it doesn't take a week. If we have the good data, it takes us, 20 minutes. It takes us no time to update, because once it's in the system, we can go in and update the current year's numbers, and on the fly. I'm not telling Mike you anything you don't know, but to our listeners, on the fly, when you put in those new numbers, as you're putting the numbers in, the valuation is changing live in front of you. And so it's amazing. It's like a telethon. People are watching the numbers, and the numbers are changing as we're putting in data. And it's such a cool thing for people to see that that's happening. Like, wow, that number, what just happened? Why did that just change? What happened? And so it changes live as we're putting in new data points. People love that.
Oh yeah,
way cool.
Yeah.
And the accountants, the attorneys love it too, because they don't like the clients paying accountants. They like the clients paying them. Everybody likes their fees, and everybody thinks everybody else charges too much.
No doubt about it. And along those same lines, you alluded to it previously there with putting in the real numbers and the values changing. The other really powerful piece of our platform is that, and this just shows the power of technology, is that we're going to update whether you change the inputs or not. That value is updating sometimes on a daily basis, but it's usually week by week, whether it's going up or down based on real life factors that are happening. So to your example before of someone having to pay 15 grand every year if they want to get a new value, the platform here is going to do it automatically. So you can have that every 6 month or every 12-month conversation and simply deliver a new report and say, hey, look, here's where your value is today. Additionally, here's how it's fluctuated over that last X number of months. So it's pretty powerful.
That 15 grand they paid the accountant to do a current valuation is good for about 2 minutes. It's based on old data that's wrong tomorrow.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yep.
It's critical. It's big. It stands us apart by far.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you're engaging with business owners, at what point in the conversation do you hone in on the value of their business?
So in our first meeting, we're going to ask them what they think it's worth. Mm-hmm. And they're going to give us some vague or reasonable number or no good number. And then we're going to have the conversation that as part of what we do, we're going to dig down and we're going to figure out with them, we're going to give them a tool that's going to help us help them with a real bona fide value that effectively they can take to the bank. This is a number. If you walk into a bank and you say, I'd like a line of credit, and the bank says, give me your financials, and you can hand them this report and say, here's a valuation of my firm as of last month, last week, whatever. It's huge value. And we say, this is something it's going to be a living document. It's going to be something you're going to have. As you just said, we're going to update it. And this is going to be part and parcel of our process. We're going to update this when we meet and update your balance sheet. We're going to update the value of your homes. You're going to have the value of all your other assets, and we're going to update the value of your business. And changes are going to be reflected on your balance sheet as we move forward. And it's good as gold. This is money. This is a valuation you can take to the bank, to a seller, to insiders, if you want to have conversations about what's going on, the direction of the business. These are important conversations, and we talk about it in the first meeting right away, that we're going to dig in and create that value and show you what it is. And yeah, you can question it. You can say it doesn't look right to me. It's either higher or lower than I thought, whatever. But the numbers are the numbers. Now, you can have your opinion, but your opinion doesn't sell in the real world. What sells is what a willing buyer is willing to pay. And if a willing buyer is not willing to pay enough, at least you'll know why.
Right. Absolutely. So, that I think that, and hopefully gives everyone on the call a great understanding of how you're leveraging business valuation in a number of different ways, pretty effectively within your business. So certainly, Leonard, thank you for sharing all of that. Let's transition now and talk about the case. Again, everyone will receive a copy of the PDF after the call, but let's talk about this case that you worked on with a construction company. I know that the attorney and CPA were also involved in the process. Could you walk everyone through that case, really beginning to end, and some of the benefits that it attributes to your business?
Sure. So we had a business owner. He was second generation, a construction company, and he wants to retire. The good news is we met him at a time, unlike some really bad business owners, he told us he had about a 5 to 7 year lead to when he wanted to be done. The bad business owner is the guy that calls us like the doctor and says, I'm selling my practice this week. What should I do? Or I want to sell my practice next year. You want lead time when it comes to exit strategy. The best thing is a 5 to 7. Look, the best thing is 30 years you can plan with a business owner on the ultimate sale of their enterprise. But 5 to 7 years is a good long lead run up to a sale of a company. So we met with this guy. He's late 60s. He wants to sell his business. It's second generation. He would love to have it stay in the family, but there is no legacy family owner, family member involved in the business at all. So it means a sale external to the family. As a result, he needed a good valuation of the company. He needed a strategy on how to structure the buyout of the business. And in a perfect world, someone would have simply come along out of the ether and made him an offer of X, and X being enough to say, here's what the business is worth. We're going to write you a check. Aren't you happy? Go away, and it's all good. Except in his space and in the world at large, that doesn't always happen. As a matter of fact, my experience is it happens very rarely that kind of thing just happens. So in this case, as in many, it was a sale to an insider, a key person at the company that had been with him a long time, significantly younger gentleman in his 40s who is interested in taking over the company when my client retires, having my client be an advisor to him in the future. And how does he set up the structure of how he's going to buy out the owner? And so we structured a plan in the business for a deferred comp plan, a bonus strategy, and key person insurance on both owners. So the idea is when you're dealing with an insider, unlike somebody that comes to the table with deep pockets ready to buy, often the case with an insider, unfortunately, is they don't have any money, or they certainly don't have enough money to buy the business for what the seller believes is fair value. So the seller basically has a few options. You can find a way to finance the deal for the insider buyer, or you can just work till you die and shut the place down because you don't have a buyer. So in this case, we structured with the attorney and the accountant. The first thing we did was we all met together to review the objectives of our seller to make sure that what he wanted, we were all on the same page about. Then the next thing we did was the valuation. And the accountant and the attorney, when we got the numbers put in and we had the good full 3-year, 4-year run of the books, and we looked at what was pending in the company and how they raised their revenue and so on, everybody agreed the valuation was fair. And most importantly, so check this out, the insider's spouse, thought it was a fair valuation as well. And she actually does work in the business. So what was cool was, we needed to have her on board because nobody's going to quash the deal faster. You think a CPA can kill a deal. The insider spouse says, we're not paying that for this business. It's over. So both the seller's spouse and the insider spouse agreed that the value was real and fair. Everybody at the table agreed it was real and fair. And now it was just a question of how was he going to buy it. So what we did was we structured a deferred comp plan for our seller so that instead of paying taxes multiple times, because in a traditional buyout arrangement, what happens is the inside buyer has to sell product, has to generate revenue, pay tax on that revenue, and then buys out the seller with after-tax dollars that then the seller has to pay tax on again. And so the government gets really rich on the deal, and the seller has to spend a lot, the buyer has to spend a lot for the government to get rich, and it takes a lot to do the deal. Well, what we did was we structured a deferred compensation plan funded with life insurance, where the seller, the company, is funding this policy for the benefit of the future interest of the seller. And that policy then at retirement will allow the company to pay a deferred comp check on a contractual basis to the seller, which is a significant part of the buyout value. So when the owner gets that in the future, oddly enough and fantastically, it's deductible to the business and taxed once to the seller. So we cut the IRS out of a small fortune, and we do it much more efficiently, and the seller doesn't care how he gets money in the future, just so he gets enough. And the buyer is happy to pay it with a deductible dollar. And the only time the buyer wants non-deductible dollars is when they care about basis, and you only care about basis if you're thinking about selling.
Right.
And the buyer is going to stick around for a long time, and he hopes that when he's 75 or so, he can sell the business or bring his kids into it. So it's great for the seller, it's great for the buyer, and we funded a significant portion of that with life insurance, with paid up additions and a traditional whole life policy that's going to generate big cash value. And subsequently, that policy serves as key man that if our significantly older owner should pass before the deal's complete, policy proceeds payable to the company and to the new buyer allow them to both buy out the old retiring owner and have leftover money as key person to keep the company stable while they move forward in whatever it is that the company needs to be done. We also bought life insurance on the younger owner so that if something happened to him and my senior owner is now selling, the younger owner is buying, and the younger owner passes away, the last thing my senior owner wants is the business back. And with taking the business back, he not only has to take it back, but he also has to go to work. He's retired. He doesn't want to go back to work. So the life insurance on the junior partner owner is coverage payable to both the business and the senior owner, so that if something happens, the senior owner the buyout is completed, number one. Number two, if the junior owner should pass, the key person policy allows the senior owner to potentially replace them. And number three, we bought enough life insurance in the program that it would also pay out to the junior owner's beneficiaries what the junior owner owned or had acquired in ownership of the stock, so they wouldn't be left holding stock of a company that had no value in the marketplace. They would actually be redeemed immediately. So the deal would be completed in full if the senior owner passed or the junior owner passed, either which way. The accountants loved it. The attorneys loved it. The senior owner was in a great position cash-wise to make the deal happen. The junior owner gets what he gets. And on a going forward basis, once the deal was completed, the last piece of the puzzle is, depending upon profitability of the company and productivity of our junior buyer, the junior buyer is transferred shares of the company, percentages of the company on a scale that everybody worked out together that will give him stock in the company. So the goal is, when my senior owner pulls the trigger and calls it retirement date, the junior owner should own about 45% of the company. And now, with a 45% ownership and a going concern, that we will continue to update the valuation on, so that when the day comes that senior owner leaves, junior owner can go to the bank with the valuation with 45% ownership, get capital if he wants from either the bank or outside sources, and he has the right to buy out the senior owner all at once. He can pay him out over 5 or 10 years. And it was set up, and it will be managed via the valuation, via the continued monitoring of the value of the company, and how they transact cash flow during the 5-year period leading up to retirement. And everybody's looking at this saying, it all stems from, we did a value, we did a structure of a deal. We'll hope it's voluntarily vertical, which is something I like to tell people all the time. You want to leave voluntarily vertically, not involuntarily horizontally. But if involuntary horizontal comes, we've put the insurance in place on both owners to make sure that the other is full, complete, the deal is done. Nobody's stuck with a business or stuck working in a place they don't want to be. We've taken over company benefits, so we handle other things for them, retirement plans, health insurance benefits, a suite of cafeteria plan type benefits. And our senior owner had money with a brokerage firm that when we went through and got through all of this planning, he said, why don't I just have you guys, handle my money as well as the 401k? You're doing that, you might as well handle my personal stuff too. I said, great, we're happy to do it. And $1 million in AUM came over to start the process. And every year going forward, as the company's more profitable, we're handling more. Last piece of the puzzle is the junior owner is now a client as well. And what he's talking about is, how do I do things in my 40s so that when I get to my 70s, I don't have to plan for it as we're doing now, because I've already planned for it. So I'm ready for this when it comes. And so, the old line, there's the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. The second best time is now. So we said, let's start your planning now so you're ready. And so now he and his wife are clients of the firm as well, on their individual consulting. So we're doing that also. It's been fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, that is what a cool story. I mean, first of all, thanks for sharing today, and also thanks for letting us actually publish that to distribute to everyone. But yeah, I mean, that's such an ideal case for a number of different reasons, all from just delivering a valuation. You see all of the different elements that everyone can benefit from just from that valuation figure. It's a very, very cool story, and we certainly thank you for sharing that. And it looks like we're at about 1:30 here. So Leonard, on behalf of myself and the rest of the BizEquity family here, we can't thank you enough for sharing with everyone how you've leveraged BizEquity in your practice and your case. And we thank you for the partnership and look forward to continue working with you.
It's my pleasure to share it, and I hope others find good value in it and have the opportunity to use the system. It is incredibly easy. If you haven't used it, the first one you should use it on is your own practice, your own business. See what it's worth, see what the numbers come back, see if you agree or disagree, and watch those numbers change. And then, the first time out, you'll test it, you'll see how it works, and it's just a great tool that if you use it once a year on one case, you pay for 10. I don't know how much it is that I pay for the BizEquity software license, but my goodness, that case, I can tell you, it paid for it multiple times over. So I'll do you a little commercial on that too. I mean, my experience has been that the opportunity gained in having the ability to put out the software has just been amazing. And I saw, Gwen put a question in there, what pricing is fair to charge, in the chat. I think as much as you can get somebody to pay fairly. I know the accountant told my client that it was $15,000 a year for their valuation, and I know we don't charge that. So we're well under $15,000 a year, and we're a hell of a lot better than that plan is. I can promise you that.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And to everyone who joined us today, we certainly appreciate your partnership and your time today. I've put my contact information up here on the screen. If you need anything after the call, certainly give me a call, shoot me an email. But again, thank you all, and look forward to continue to work with everyone. Take care.